Welcome back everybody to the Kriya Yoga online channel. I've got a series of videos I'm going to be posting over the next week. There should be 3 of them, and these will be my final videos for the year. Fall is nearly here and I'm going to be taking a break to focus on teaching the Kriya Yoga class, the webinar dealing with the Yoga Sutras. So that's nearly full. It begins this October, so if you have an interest in participating in that class, you can go to the link below. It'll be on the AshevilleVedicAstrology.com website for more information on how to participate. But anyway, the link will be below, so that's why I'm going to be taking a break from some videos for a while, focus primarily on that. So the series that I want to go through deals with some questions that we've had, specifically around the book Autobiography of Yogi, also around health and healing, so that'll probably be video number 2 if I record it in the sequence I have in mind, as well as talking about how to be a Satya Yuga individual. And a lot of people talk about wanting to escape from the world or escape from Maya delusion, or they want to incarnate again during the Satya Yuga, and we'll talk more about that during that 3rd video. But anyway, it's an interesting idea, and I thought it might be fun to talk about. So I want to start with Autobiography of Yogi. Autobiography of Yogi. It's a great book. It was the book that didn't first get me involved in yoga. There were other books before that, but it was the one that first grabbed my attention, the one that inspired me to say, this is the path specifically for me. This is the way that I know that I can take to learn what I want to learn, the philosophical understanding, spiritual understanding, being at peace with myself. Knowing what these sages know, all these sages that I've read, I knew that this was one of the ways that it could be done, the Kriya Yoga path, as mentioned in Autobiography of Yogi. Now this book is a very inspirational book. It really gets people jazzed up and motivated because it's pretty fantastic. And that's excellent. We need that. We need there to be a flagship that comes forth and says, hey, look, check this out. This is possible for you. But what I found is a lot of people don't necessarily read Autobiography of Yogi with what I think the underlying intent might be, which is as guidance, as spiritual sustenance, and the inspiration in particular to drive you deeper into your practice. Because Autobiography of Yogi is so fantastic, what most people do, and I've seen this interacting with people in classes, at retreats, they read Autobiography of Yogi and they say, oh, how wonderful Yogananda is, how wonderful all these experiences are. And they usually always follow it up with, I wish I could do that. I wish I could know that. I wish I could experience that. And that's more of a true, just whimsical wish, rather than, I'm going to find out and do what he did to experience these things. And I think that's what the book was really meant to do, to inspire you to figure out, what do I need to do learning Kriya Yoga, practicing Kriya Yoga, to be, know, experience that which Yogananda experienced. And within this book, aside from the fantastic stories, there are amazing philosophical, spiritual truths, or things to study, which can help you understand the practice better. For example, I've picked a few. There's actually quite a bit more in here that I've picked over the years when I used to speak at the meditation center here in Asheville. I almost always use stories from Autobiography of Yogi, so it's a pretty marked up book. So one of the first things that come up here that I speak to a lot, that came to mind, is the story that deals with the Tiger Swami in Autobiography of a Yogi. And the Tiger Swami, he speaks about how he was an unhealthy person before he was strong enough to fight tigers, as he did, as reported in the story. And he says that it was by indomitable persistency and thoughts of health and strength that I overcame my handicap, because he talked about how he was a weak, feeble, sickly individual before that. And I have every reason to extol the compelling mental vigor which I found to be the real subduer of royal Bengals, or the tigers in which he fought. So essentially within this book, even though it's a fantastic story about fighting tigers, which is really interesting, this one line, "It was by indomitable persistency in thoughts of health and strength that I overcame my handicap. I have every reason to extol the compelling mental vigor which I found to be the real subduer of the royal Bengals." So that line alone, we find a truth, that the body was weak, the body was unhealthy, and by this indomitable persistency of thought, he was able to overcome that weakness, that handicap. And I'm sure it wasn't easy. It wasn't just as though he sat down one day and maybe contemplated for a month or even 6 months, I'm healthy, I'm well, I'm strong. This was probably over years. And as he got his mind around the thoughts, he probably also started trying to do things which supported that, health-related things. And in time, the mind and the body linked up, and he experienced this inner strength, this inner health. So this is one example of an impressive story, a fantastic story, an autobiography of a yogi, that if you just find that one line and dwell upon it, it's going to give you insights into health and well-being, whether it's mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being. And this is all part of the Kriya Yoga path, to understand this. Another passage that I particularly liked was when Yogananda was talking to Sri Yukteswar. And Sri Yukteswar said, "The darkness of Maya is silently approaching. Let us hie homeward within." And Yogananda goes on, I'm reading the writing here. Within these cautionary words, Master constantly reminded his disciples of their need for Kriya Yoga. A new student occasionally expressed doubts regarding his own worthiness to engage in yoga practice. And Sri Yukteswar said, "Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until man is anchored in the divine. Everything in the future will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now." Again, that one paragraph, if you take it, you mark it, you dwell upon it, you meditate upon it after you complete your Kriya Yoga practices, and you start thinking, how can I apply that into my life? How can I live from that logic? That's going to drive you homeward, spiritually speaking. So Autobiography of Yogi is a wonderful book. It has numerous fantastic stories. It's extremely inspirational. But you don't want to get caught up in the awe of it. You want that awe to pull you in, to inspire you. But then you want to ask, okay, how did Yogananda, what did he do to have these experiences? He practiced Kriya. He applied the specific, what you might call spiritual lessons within Autobiography of a Yogi. And we need to think of it this way. I want to talk about this in the video specifically dealing with health and well-being. But think of it like this. Imagine a famous basketball star. And since I'm not really up on basketball, the only one I can think of off the top of my head is maybe Michael Jordan. And he's probably not even playing anymore. But anyway, he was the big thing when I was a kid. So it's as if when we read Autobiography of a Yogi, we are reading a book about Michael Jordan. And the book is all about all the wonderful things he experienced as a basketball star. The places he went, the people he met, the joy of winning the games that he did, the kind of training that he went through to get better. But what that is, that's focusing on almost the end result, if you will. So once the person has gone through all the years of training, all the years of frustration, of missing so many shots, of focusing on practicing simple techniques hours a day, every day. This is what great people do. They don't just wake up one morning and they're great. Usually those people that are great, they have spent almost all of their waking hours thinking about that thing which they are a master at, or focusing on the minute details of specific techniques. of specific practices and figuring out how it works for them, because that's the important thing. We have these techniques, but each of us are individualized expressions of this divine consciousness. And so the way Yogananda approached life, the way other saints and sages approach life, there's going to be similarities, but you're going to have your own life to live. You're going to have to make it fit with your own life. Now, certain things, are true regardless of your lifestyle. For example, in the Yoga Sutras, it talks about contentment, and that this is applicable regardless of one's station in life, time, or place. So there are certain things which are not specific to you as an individual, and those can be found in the Yoga Sutras, the particular formula. But how you live your life and your experiences are not going to be the same, because we are each individualized aspects of this divine consciousness. You can use the words of the Autobiography of Yogi, the words of Yogananda, the words of any inspired master, inspired teacher, to help get you going. But then you need to set aside the obsession with the fantasy, or the obsession with the I wish I could do that, and start deciding, all right, I need to make this work for my life. Here I am. This is my spiritual laboratory. Let's do it. Let's figure out what we need to do and make it work. So keep that in mind. Autobiography of Yogi is a wonderful book. Books of the lives of saints and sages are all wonderful books because they inspire us. But you want to learn the underlying lesson behind each chapter. Ask, what is that? Apply that daily, rather than reading the book and being amazed and in awe, and then not taking it any further than that. So one last little section I want to just read, that I enjoyed. This is from the chapter in Autobiography of Yogi called An Idol in South India. I believe it's on page 338 and 339. And this deals with when Yogananda met RamanaMaharshi. Before leaving South India, Mr. Wright and I made pilgrimage to the holy hill of Arunachala, near Tiruvannamalai, to meet Sri RamanaMaharshi. At his ashram, the sage welcomed us affectionately and pointed to a nearby stack of East-West magazines. During the hours that we spent with him and his disciples, he was mostly silent, his gentle face radiating divine love and wisdom. To help suffering humanity regain its forgotten state of perfection, Sri Ramana teaches that one should constantly ask, "Who am I?" The great inquiry indeed. By stern rejection of all other thoughts, the devotee soon finds himself going deeper and deeper into the true self, and the sidetracking bewilderments of other thoughts cease to arise. The illumined Rishi of South India has written, "Dualities and trinities on something do hang. Supportless they never appear. That support searched for, they loosen and fall. There is the truth. Who sees that never wavers." So this, in and of itself, is worth contemplating for months, for years, until it dawns clearly in your consciousness. And the Kriya Yoga practices, the Kriya Yoga techniques, the formulas of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, they help to align your mind, body, consciousness, your life, so that you are able to process the information not with the mind, but with the rest of your consciousness, so you know it directly. So when you read Autobiography of Yogi, keep this in mind. Let it be inspiration, let it inspire your devotion, but let it drive you to figure out just what it really takes to know yourself, to be at peace, to understand your relationship to God, divine consciousness, and the wholeness of life.